Continuing our talk with Mr. Quayle, the chairman of the IoM Steam Packet Company. I mean, we were talking lots in that first section about this new competition as well coming in. Cherry picking, I suppose you'd term it as. They're going to go for obviously the most profitable bits, TT for passengers, your better clients on the freight.
Well, we don't know what they're going to offer at the moment. I mean, TT. If I was booking up for the TT, I think I'd want to know that the vessel was actually going to sail. We're up to capacity for TT. I mean, in theory, if they can bring extra passengers, the Isle of Man may benefit from that. Cherry picking freight, they're limited as to what they can provide, because under the user agreement, which you described as monopoly but isn't actually a total monopoly, they can't bring roll-on, roll-off vessels into Douglas Harbour and discharge onto the link spans. What they can do, and what I understand they're hoping to do, is to load a vessel on a ro-ro link span, but discharge it through some kind of side door. Now, we used to have our passenger ferries that had side doors, but there was a limit on the height of vehicle that you could use. If they're going to get large vehicles off through a side door, inevitably they're going to be constrained by the tide, and there will only be certain times of the day at which they can discharge their vessels in Douglas Harbour, which does provide some limits. So they're not going to be going after, and they've made it clear, as I understand it, that they're not going to go after all our freight, but they're looking to get some of our freight.
Because I mean, let's face it, last time we already said that, people did go. There's the same potential that if they come in with a price that's obviously very competitive, which they'll have to do to get any business, you'll then be forced to react to that again in some way, which will then, as you say, could affect all sorts of different pricing. And I'm getting the indication that you're saying that the passengers will be the ones who will have to pay more.
Well, I think that's our fear, Paul, is that if we have to drop our freight rates to retain our business, that the inevitable downturn in our revenue will have to be made good somewhere else, because our margins are not sufficiently generous. We're living in an economic downturn. Hopefully we're on the way up again, but this route has never been sufficiently strong to sustain competition.
But yet again, someone has looked at the figures or worked out that there may be a gap here, because it's not the first time, is it? So there must be potential for these companies to make such an effort. I mean, we haven't heard from Ellen Van Lines yet, but they're having a public meeting on Friday night, the day we're recording this. Will you be there to
I'm sure we'll be most interested to hear what's been said, because I've heard that the principal behind Ellen Van Lines is talking about complete transparency. I mean, we'd be most interested to know what his business plan is and who his backer is. Because
are you going tonight then to?
I'm sure somebody will go and report to us. And also what vessel he's hoping to use, because I mean there's a very, very limited number of vessels that would be suitable for this use. We experience immense difficulties every year in getting charter vessels in to help us out at the TT, to cover for the Ben McCree's annual overhaul and this sort of thing. Charter vessels, cargo vessels of a type suitable for this very small harbour are very few and far between, and very difficult to get hold of, and increasingly expensive.
So back to really where we started on this thing, you making this announcement late Thursday night for Friday morning, ahead of their thing. This was definitely to put a shot over their bows, is it not?
I think it's to lay to rest one misapprehension that they clearly are suffering under, namely that we have a significant debt problem and therefore a financial problem. We don't. We are financially robust. We have lenders and shareholders who are backing us 100%. And there is absolutely no way in which we're going to just fold up and just go away into the sunset because some competition sets up.
And yet, again, we only have you to tell us that. We will not be getting any figures, facts or details, because you say you're a private company, you don't want to share this information, right? Should we have confidence in you, I'm saying, in other words?
Well, I'm hoping you do. But I certainly wouldn't be going and telling you this if I didn't believe it. And as for facts and figures, I'm not entirely sure how they would help you, Paul, because, why do people want to know the exact amount of our debt? There's obviously the Manx interest in everything, but at the same time, what they need to know is that this company is financially secure, and can sustain a period of competition, not sought from our point of view. We would prefer it not to be there, but we certainly can pass through that.
Let me ask you, as a chairman, have you been happy with the way the steam packet has handled this whole situation? I'm not now talking about the competition, I'm talking about your debt and how you've, because it's perception that it has been labouring under a massive debt. We obviously, some of that leak came out. But are you happy the way this is?
Of course we weren't happy to find that the steam packet had a very significant debt, a debt that it had not incurred for its own purposes, but that had been wished upon it in a sense by the quirks of company law and the ability of purchasers to secure the loans they had taken out to acquire the company on the assets of that company. No, none of us were happy about that. But we have sought to work through that situation, recognising it was what we were handed, and come out the other side.
And as far as governments go, are you sniffing any more help from them to buy a new vessel or something like that? Will you be going to them like the Sefton had their issue, for instance?
We have always made the point very strongly that this company, unlike many other ferry companies in the British Isles, receives no government support, and we are not asking for government support.
But you want the user agreement, don't you?
What we would like to do is to talk to government about the user agreement, about the future, because actually we're at the stage now where we have to look seriously at investing in new vessels. Now, we're not asking for government money, but we will be certainly seeking government support to say if there is going to be investment in new vessels, and we're talking 50-60 million pounds. That's the sort of figure we're talking about for new vessels. The Ben McCree is now 15 years old, bit older than 15 years old. We've got to start thinking about the future. And we want to make sure that we do that in a timely way with some security for our investors to know that if they invest the sort of sums that are going to be needed, there is some guarantee that they'll be able to go on providing the service.
Mr. Quayle, you're saying this and another, but that's basically the user agreement to make sure nobody else can get in on this market. You want protection, you want monopoly.
Yes. Oh no, we don't want monopoly, we want protection. That's the whole purpose of the user agreement. I mean, you're looking at it in terms of what we get out of it. We comply with all our requirements. Don't forget, in order to get protection, we guarantee a level of service, we guarantee frequency of service, we submit our fares to regulation, and a lot of other things, a lot of other obligations which we comply with in full. And those are the quid pro quo that gives the Isle of Man the stability, the security, the long-term prospects of the vital sealing. You remember what happened when the poor old Ben had a few technical problems at a time of very considerable bad weather last year. So many of our supermarkets are on buying their goods on a just-in-time basis. The island really gets into difficulties. Look what's happening at the airport. Open skies policy, it's not our business really, but obviously we observe that the open skies policy is not really working for the Isle of Man because, and even there, the airport runs at a loss. The airlines are coming and going and the service is just not there. We've provided that service. We get protection, but it's protection to give us the security to invest and provide the service.
We have probably more to talk about in other times. And on that, will you talk to the media more often? Because I've always asked, and the steam packet has always been very, very reticent maybe about talking to the media. Will you give me the assurance you'll be available if I want to talk to you again?
I'm an open door, Paul.